Hello everyone, and welcome to another video explaining the various combat classes you can play in Final Fantasy XIV. Today we will cover the 2 jobs introduced to the game in the Stormblood expansion. Yeah, that's right, I said 2. Get that nonsense out of here, real jobs only. Now, I should mention that, much like the Heavensward jobs I covered last time, you cannot access these 2 combat classes immediately when starting the game as a new player. To unlock these 2, you will have to level one of the other jobs to level 50 first. Fortunately, both of these jobs start at level 50, so you won't be losing any progress in the switch. But before we start, as always, remember, this is not a guide. Find somebody good at the game if you want to learn how to play these jobs well. This is just a crash course introducing the various available jobs and what makes them each special. Starting with... this is the Samurai. The Samurai is a melee damage dealer, and they fight with a katana. Now, this job is all about doing huge damage numbers at close range. You are not here for utility, you are here to make things die as quickly as possible. Kinda like the Black Mage or the Machinist, except you're not too chicken to get within punching range. This job is also about slowly building to big payoffs. To play the Samurai is to enjoy the satisfaction of filling out a customer loyalty rewards card. Use enough of your small attacks, and you'll get access to even harder-hitting special attacks. Use those, and that'll eventually let you pull off even bigger ones. It's like every hit you do now gives you a little coupon to spend on an even bigger hit later. Now let's go ahead and start talking about abilities, because the Samurai has quite a few of them. Now, all melee jobs are going to have some form of basic melee 3-hit combo or several-hit combo, but you, as a Samurai, actually have 3 of those. This first one, as soon as you complete it, will give you this little red buff, which basically increases your attack speed for 40 seconds. This second combo available to you will give you this little blue buff, which basically increases your attack damage for 40 seconds. So you're going to want to be using each of these pretty regularly to keep those buffs refreshed. And you've also got this shorter 2-hit combo here. But as you may have already noticed, each of these combos also lights up a little symbol on this fancy-looking sen gauge over here. Observe. Complete that first combo, and this thing here lights up red. If I complete the second combo I showed you, this one here lights up blue, and as soon as I do that third combo, this one here lights up teal. These 3 sen are basically those little coupons I mentioned, which you can spend on bigger attacks. You see, this particular ability here, Iaijutsu, will do different things depending on how many of those sen you have lit up. If you have 0 sen, well then it does nothing. If you have 1 sen of any color, then the Iaijutsu move will inflict a very strong damage over time. If you have 2 sen of any color, then Iaijutsu will instead do this very strong AoE attack around you. And if you happen to have all 3 sen lit up, then you can cash those in for this devastating single target hit. So as a Samurai, you want to be constantly using all 3 of your basic combos, not just to keep your damage buffs going, but to earn the sen required to dish out whichever Iaijutsu you need at any given time. Although it is worth noting that using an Iaijutsu does require you to hold still for a few seconds, so mind your footing, because remember, those danger puddles do not care how cool you look. But notice also how every time I use one of these Iaijutsu, one of these little diamonds down here lights up. Surprise! These big hits that you've been building toward are each giving you even fancier coupons. And when you light up all 3 of them, that's going to give you this new ability, where for the next 30 seconds, any of the party members within 20 yalms of you will gain this special bonus effect where, I'm kidding, it does an even bigger attack! Now, perhaps you are curious about this little sword meter here that the diamonds are attached to. That is your Kenki gauge. And most of the attacks that I've mentioned so far will also slowly fill up this bar as you use them. This, Kenki, is a resource that you can spend on all kinds of little free hits, which you can weave in between all of these combos that you're just constantly doing on a regular rotation. What kinds of free hits? Well, you've got small extra hits, you've got much larger extra hits, you've got AoE extra hits, you've got extra hits that'll launch you towards the enemy, you've got extra hits that'll launch you away from the enemy. Do hits so that you can do more and bigger hits. Repeat. It is a lot of abilities to keep track of, admittedly, but if you like flashy sword attacks and the satisfaction of building up to a really big payoff at the end, or if you just want to focus on putting out bonkers damage and nothing else, but not with like a gun or a staff, well, then maybe try out the Samurai. But now I think it's time we talked about... this is the Red Mage. The Red Mage is a ranged magical damage dealer, and they fight with a cool hat. But also this fencing rapier. The Red Mage is a ranged magical DPS, and this job is all about, well, looking good, mostly. Now, traditionally, the Final Fantasy Red Mage is a jack of all trades who does a little bit of everything. White magic, black magic, melee combat, all of it. And the way they've translated this job to Final Fantasy XIV is honestly quite clever. So you've got a variety of ranged damage spells, right? Some of them, like Jolt here, have a fairly quick cast time but only do modest damage. Other spells in your arsenal, like for Thunder, do a lot more damage but have a very long cast time. 5 whole seconds, are you kidding me? Fortunately, Red Mages have a special trait called Dual Cast. Dual Cast makes it so that every time you finish casting one spell, you get to cast your next spell instantly. No cast time. So that means your entire strategy is about using a spell with a short cast time first so that you can immediately follow it with an instant cast bigger spell that you would normally have to wait a long time for. Just constantly alternating. Short cast time, instant big spell. This leads me to the other defining aspect of Red Mage play, this little balance gauge down here. This little gauge shows you your white mana and your black mana, and every spell you cast is going to slowly fill these 2 meters. Certain spells, like Ver Thunder and Ver Fire, will give you black mana. Other spells, like Ver Arrow and Ver Stone, give you white mana. And then there are the little spells like Jolt, which just give you a little bit of both. As you dual cast your damage spells, you want to be slowly filling both of these meters up, keeping them roughly balanced as you go, because fill both of these mana bars up high enough, and you will be able to kick off the party with this very potent melee combo. Enchanted Riposte, Enchanted Zouachot, and Enchanted Redoublement. That's right, the sword is only partly for show. And hey, look, each of those melee attacks lit up one of these 3 little stars here on your balance gauge, which means now you can cast one of your biggest spells, really your pick, between Ver Flare and Ver Holy, which you can then follow up with an even bigger spell, Scorch. But you've got lots of other fun little toys too. Korrakor, for instance, will dash you towards your target, which is great for putting you in range for that big melee combo. Displacement, meanwhile, will launch you away from your target, which is great for throwing yourself off of a cliff before the boss has a chance to. Listen, it's called a dramatic exit, all right? Look it up. But what about healing, I hear some of you asking? Red Mages are supposed to be able to heal too, right? Well, technically, yes. You do have Vercure, an emergency heal spell, which isn't incredible compared to what the full-time healers can throw out, but it can definitely help in a pinch. And even more importantly, you have Verraise. Yes, you are one of the only non-healers who can revive fallen party members, which can be the difference between a party wipe and a win if something bad happens to the healers. The rhythm of dual casting can take a little getting used to at first, but if you like the idea of playing a flashy, highly mobile mage who gets to regularly dart in and out of melee range, or if you like being the party member who gets to swoop in and save the day when all of the healers accidentally explode, or if you just want to play a mage who dresses like a different flavor of dweeb, well, here's the Red Mage. And those are all of the jobs which were added in the Stormblood expansion. Hey, no, I said we're not doing that one. It's not even a job, it's a hobby. Okay, fine. Okay, let's talk about... This is the Blue Mage. The Blue Mage is a ranged magical DPS who fights with a cane, and you'll be able to unlock this particular job after reaching level 50 and completing the A Realm Reborn main story. Now, Blue Mage is a fun but bizarre curiosity which was added to the game in one of Stormblood's later patches. Why is it weird? Well, because it is classified as a limited job, currently the only one in the game. As a limited job, Blue Mage is straight up not allowed to participate in a lot of the game's content. You cannot do main story quests as a Blue Mage, you cannot participate in PvP, you cannot be teamed up with random players for group content. Why not, you might ask? Well, because Blue Mage isn't really a job so much as it is an alternate game mode. It has its own, completely unique form of progression, and it is also not balanced with group content in mind, by which I mean this job is bonkers overpowered. This job is all about learning spells from your enemies. Unlike all the other jobs in the game, you do not gain new abilities automatically as you level. Instead, you gain them by fighting the game's many monsters. If you see an enemy use a learnable Blue Mage spell, you will have a chance of acquiring that move yourself when you defeat them. Succeed, and that spell gets permanently added to your spellbook. But to show you more, I'm going to need to bring in some assistance. say hello to Zuriel. She is the actual main character I play when I'm not recording story mode with Durmin, and she also happens to be a much better blue mage than he is. But, as I was saying, blue mage does not have any special gauge or meters. Instead, you have this enormous spell book, which you can slowly fill with all of the spells you've learned. At the time I'm recording this, there are 124 learnable blue mage spells. You can learn Bomb Toss from Gobbies. You can learn Sharpened Knife from a King Tonberry, Blood Drain from bats, Flying Sardine from some birds. Yes, that was a fish. I threw it. No, it doesn't do any damage to speak of. It's a fish. So what? I bet your fancy red mage can't throw a fish. Not the jack of all trades, apparently. Try learning Fishomancy, idiot. And you can learn Self-Destruct from bombs, which does exactly what you'd expect. As you collect these spells from beasts, machines, and even bosses, you will build a toolkit full of every kind of utility. Damaging spells of every element, status effect spells, defensive spells, healing spells. You can only equip 20 spells at once, but in this arsenal exists an answer for almost any combat scenario. With the right spell loadout, you could be the tank, you could be the healer, and you can put out damage numbers the other jobs can only dream of. You are a walking game balance nightmare, and that is why you're not allowed to play team sports with the neighborhood kids anymore. But that's okay, because the handful of things they do still let you do in this game as a blue mage, you can do better than any other job in the game. You can churn through grindy content faster than anyone else. You can speedrun old dungeons and bosses just for fun. In fact, Blue Mage has access to an entirely unique collection of combat challenges called the Masked Carnival, a series of fiendishly tricky puzzle encounters that test your knowledge of your own toolkit and your ability to customize a spell loadout to tackle specific problems. It really is an entirely alternate game mode built into the MMO. Anyway, let's get Durmin back out here. So, if the idea of going out and collecting all these spells sounds fun, or if you want to enjoy feeling tremendously OP now and then, or if you're just looking for a new way to experience the game for a bit, well, blue mages exist. But that is it. Those are all of the jobs which were added in Stormblood, bringing the game's job total up to 16. Well, 15 and a half. As always, if you have any further questions about these jobs, I can't help you. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.